without further ado, let's just get right into our rankings here or our ballot. We might give you some insight about some players that uh, deserve a little bit more love than they've been getting, or sneaky maybe players that can steal a spot. So let's start here. Right how it is. Let's start at first base, and we'll start on the NL for all of these. Um, there is definitely some of these positions in certain leagues that are pretty locked up for obvious reasons, and I think the National League first base is one of them. Freddie Freeman having a great year, but as I'll let Will speak on, Bryce Harper has just been absolutely phenomenal this year. So, Will, what is your pick for first base in the National League?
I'm glad you let me speak because I was worried you're going to hijack the section that is clearly the Philly favorite to win, and not only win at first base, but have the number one voting of anyone in the National League, so he's automatically in. Bryce Harper is doing wonderful things again. He is just every day he's hitting new highs. He is soaring in every category. It feels like he's batting over 300 now. He got his 20th home run like 15 minutes ago. If it wasn't for the fact that Shohei Ohtani is having another godlike season hitting wise, Harper would arguably be pushing um, the front running for MVP this season because he's also having a great year defensively at first. His only real competition is Freddie Freeman. And Freddie Freeman, if he was having maybe a bit better of a power season like in the past, he would be given more consideration. The two of them are closer than I thought initially because I thought it was a complete shoe in for Harper. Um, and I mean, it's really just Harper's just soaring in the power numbers, um, and his slugging percentage and OPS. The stats I have in front of me are actually a day late, so I'm gonna try not to share too much, but there are a few things I might point out. And so I think just because Harper is soaring so much offensively, he is the front runner in this case. But it'll come down to him and Freeman. But Harper's gonna get the overall pick for National League, and therefore first baseman won't get around to. But Freeman will make the team most likely.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I mean, it's definitely between those two. I mean, Christian Walker's had a nice year as well, but he's just not touching what Bryce and Freddie Freeman are doing. John, I'm gonna assume you have the same at first base in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, I've been voting for Harper in each ballot that I filled out. I mean, I just don't think that even with Christian Walker and having the season that he's having, uh, it's not even close in my opinion. I mean, if you look at Harper's numbers, they're right in front of your face. Batting 303, and then his OPS is 978. And you said with what 20 home runs? That's pretty impressive for a great first half. And yeah, I have nothing else to add to it other than it's not shocking to me. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. I do want to go back to the point with that Will made, because I think for a long time, or at least when the season started, it was like, you look at the National League MVP, and I think obviously coming into the year was a lot of Ronald Acuna, Mookie, Shohei, and I think Bryce Harper, as you said, put himself right in that conversation. I think him and Otani are 1A, 1B, but Bryce is living up to what they're paying him. I know, there was a period, a couple years into his contract where he was playing okay, but it wasn't the superstar level or, top three player in the league level that you were looking for. And now, I mean, obviously for a while, he's been hitting all cylinders, playing really well. I think again, it's Bryce here at first, and this is one of those positions to me where it doesn't feel like much of a vote. I think across the board, we have a sweep here.
Can I ask a question about Harper? Is he almost unfairly judged based on how his team is doing in that sense? Because I feel like it's almost like you say he's living up to his contract, but is it in that
Mhm.
sense
Mm-hmm.
of he's having a fantastic year, but if Philly doesn't make the World Series or even the NLCS, then is does Bryce Harper did Bryce Harper have a terrible year in that sense, regardless of what he
No,
does in MVP. Because
No, but
yeah,
it's kind of a double-edged sword though, because when they're when the Phillies were not hitting their stride like they were supposed to be, it was okay. Harper's not playing as well as he could be, and they're losing, so he was probably getting unfairly
no,
treated
that's
then.
not fair at all. That's
well, that's
unfair to
why I
say
bring
that
that
at
up.
all.
It's because when the
What do
Well,
you
Phillies were
mean?
struggling, it
considering
was
he
okay. This
won
is
his
Bryce Harper's fault.
MVP, he won his MVP in 2021 when the team was not doing well, and
No,
the
but I'm
result
saying
wasn't, "Oh, Harper had a bad year."
no, but I'm
Every
No,
saying
year
and
like
he's
I
had a
agree
good
with
year.
you. I'm just
I
saying
I
that
think it's unfair
he
to
gets a lot of
him.
flack. Yeah,
Yeah, or he did
he
at
gets a lot
least.
of flack
I
for
don't
how
think
the Phillies
Harper
do.
he gets a lot of flack for carrying the team, but it's if the team doesn't make the year, I forget which one of you said, it's not like it's then perceived as a bad season on his part because he wasn't carrying the team. The problem was
Yeah,
just the
no,
other pieces around him didn't quite step up. And the fact that Harper was probably as good as he was, whatever season we're going to talk about, is probably the reason the Phillies, even missing the postseason, lasted as long as they did.
yeah, and like I said, I don't think I think it was just unfair how he kind of was viewed at the start of his contract because, like, again, they even though he was doing okay, the team wasn't. So I'm agreeing. I mean, I think Harper obviously now like there's nothing. I mean, he's playing amazing baseball. The Phillies are the best team in the league. Like, and rightfully so, he's getting his flowers because in those times of is this guy overrated? The $330 million contract, blah, blah, this and that. And like, there's a lot of pressure there to perform. And obviously, he's doing that this season and in seasons past. And again, potential MVP coming up for Harper if he can continue to pour it on. And we'll see what happens with Shohei out in LA. But let's move over to the American League side, a position that's a little bit more up in the air, I would say. Um, John, I'll go to
I
you on
don't
this
think
one first. You don't think so?
I
I have a feeling where
uh,
you're going with this one.
no, I think Mountie. Honestly, I do think that it's justifiable for him being first base. If you look at his OPS right there, it's like it's one of the highest, as well as his 11 home runs and then his 282 average. You look at it, and it's top of the American League. Now, could Orioles fans be stuffing the ballot box? Possibly. But,
Mhm.
it's not like it's not justified for him to not be an all star. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think he's had a really good year. And is there maybe a little bit of Orioles fans? Because there is a couple players on here. I mean, Orioles got a lot of love, and obviously their fan base
well, it's
is one of the best in the
justifiably
league.
so, I think.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, it's not like they're voting in some guy who's not playing well. It's just that
Yeah,
they are
it's
getting
not
a lot of
like
the
it's not
votes.
like the White Sox where literally the joke was, here, let's vote in this guy who's batting 081, just because we need somebody to go.
Yeah.
But like this is a case of where I think that Mountie being an all-star, it's justified. I think that in terms of like Vlad Guerrero Jr., obviously I think it was last night he crushed a ball into the Boston skylight and it just disappeared from the face of the earth. It honestly, I think there's a bit of recency bias there because I don't think Vladdy has lived up to his expectations, to put it mildly. So you know that's why my vote goes to Mountcastle.
Well, what are your thoughts on the American League first base?
To me, there's like three first basemen that are kind of roughly in the same neighborhood stat wise, and that's Guerrero, Mountcastle, and Josh Naylor of the Guardians. Um, since this is about the top two ballot spots, and there's a pretty substantial lead for Mountcastle and Guerrero in those areas, they get most of the headlines. Um, but the main thing, I guess, that maybe Naylor kind of gets dropped off is his defense is probably the lowest between the three. He has the most
Hmm.
errors between the three and the worst defensive runs saved. Where like Mountcastle um, has the best defense, so therefore that can give him an edge in a maybe 50-50 split offense comparison. The main thing that Naylor I don't think should be ignored about is that offensively for a Guardians team that beginning this way back in spring training, we were looking at how we thought everyone would do. The Guardians were a team that I believe all three of us thought would struggle mightily offensively. And right now they are fighting with the Yankees for the best record in the American League. And offense has not been an issue. And they have multiple all-star candidates on this ballot that we're going to talk about the farther along we go. And Josh Naylor right now is already matched his career high in home runs. I believe, yeah, it's still 20. His
Yep.
average is in the 240s, so it doesn't stand out. But for a 20 home run guy that's on pace to hit 40 home runs, have over 110 RBIs, you don't mind that too much. Between Mountcastle, Guerrero, and um, Naylor has the best OPS plus, kind of judging his offensive numbers with 100 being a basic, or I should say an average for, I believe it's baseball, but it might be their position. And he's at 136. He also, among the three, has the best numbers with runners in scoring position, batting 253, which is a decent enough jump over the other two. Because you have Guerrero with 228 and Mountcastle with 227. And he's also been consistent. He had a low average in May, but he's been putting up 7, 8. There's 5 home runs so far this month. Is approaching 20 RBIs again. So I mean, in the end, I've tossed it around. I'll admit I've never actually voted for Mountcastle, but
Mm.
I'm not. It's an easy for the sake of us trying to come up with a person to pick here. I probably would give it to either Mountcastle or Naylor, though Mountcastle isn't among the top league leaders in everything. Just overall, he's having a very solid, consistent year. If it wasn't
Well, I
for the
think
fact
that's
that
what it.
there's no real standout at first base in the American League. Um, so I mean, if it's the type of you're the type of person to vote heavy on offensive production, give it to Naylor. He's in the top three in the American League in home runs, RBIs, and top 10 in slugging. If you're more of an all around type of person, then I'd probably give it to Mountcastle.
Well, I think that's what really an all star is an all around, great player
Mhm.
for their team. And I think that by definition would then go to Mountcastle. If we're talking about, if we're talking offensively, then I guess in theory, except for like batting average, it goes to Naylor. But yeah, I just
Yeah.
think Mounties, I think his glove is just too good to not be in the All Star game.
Compared to the
I
others, it's substantially better.
yeah, and I think that's what like not separates him, but I think like his numbers are around what these two are, like you said. But if you're gonna have something that puts him through, it's okay. He's look what he's doing in the field. So this is like okay. So I agree with you, Will. I definitely think it's between Vladdy, Mountcastle, and Naylor, dude. I gotta say, like Naylor is a really interesting case because his numbers are really good, and then, like, you see his batting average, like, 241, which isn't, like, great, right? I I I know the Guardians have been really good this year. I haven't watched a lot of their games, but one thing that's really standing out to me is why is that average so low, I guess, because, everything else, obviously, power-wise, he's been great. He has 20 home runs, as you said, 823 OPS, which is first, in AL first baseman, and you kind of like look through his stats and his BABIP, which is his batting average on balls in play, is the lowest among qualified first basemen in the AL. Again, I don't watch their games, so I don't know kind of what that means. Is he getting really unlucky because like his hard hit rate is about the same as everybody else? Like everything is kind of on par. Like it's not like he's got a bunch of ground balls too. Like his everything is normal. It's just his BABIP is way down. So I'm like curious about that because I think numbers wise offensively, yeah, it probably does go to Naylor. But I'm curious. I don't know if you guys have the answer to that. Like if he's why it's so low because like to put it in perspective, Vladdy is his BABIP is 323 and Mountcastle's 322. So like, I mean, literally 100 points higher, and it's weird because again, you look at his stats and they look good. So, um, weird thing
The
there.
only thing
God,
I would even think of is if he was striking out a lot less than usual, which would make me think, or maybe cutting back on walks or something like that, to kind of make it seem like he's hitting a lot more pitches and keeping them fair or whatever.
I mean,
But
even his
compared to his
even his
career,
sorry, I was gonna say even his like walks to strikeout ratio is like middle of the pack. So it's like it's very
and it's
weird
normal
to
for
me.
him. Now, looking at his career
Yeah,
stats, mainly the last 2 seasons where he's had a good chunk of playing time, 122 and 121 games, um, like he's on pace to both blow away his career high in walks, but also his career high in strikeouts. I mean, last year he only struck out 68 times, and he struck out 80 times the year before that. He has 56 right now through 73 games. So I mean, he's gonna have over 100 there. So I mean, well, maybe he's falling into the side of players that maybe were a little bit more contact heavy, trying to be more power heavy because he wasn't like a huge power guy, but last year he hit over 300. So if he's
yeah.
trying to be more of a home run hitter, maybe that's causing him to, overswing. And so it's either go big or it's a pop out.
Again, I don't know. It's just like you kind of compare the
Mhm.
stats, and it's like, okay, why is his average so much lower than everybody else? Regardless, having said all that, I actually didn't pick Mountie or Naylor. I actually went with Vladdy on this one.
Mhm.
He's been
We
Vladdy had a
split
really tough start.
it.
Yeah, I know, and I
So
knew
I
it
guess
was going to
it
happen.
comes down to Bobby, doesn't it?
So
That's right. Tiebreaker comes down to Bobby.
Vladdy had a really tough, and Toronto's been kind of not great, and I think maybe this contributes, but he had a really tough start to the season. And in March and April, he was batting 229. He batted 357 in May, and he's batting 282 in June. And I think the one thing with Vladdy that if you're looking at like, okay, this is maybe holding him back is his home run numbers have been low, but I think he's starting to find that because now he has 5 home runs already in the month of June, and I think he's starting to find that because he's getting on base a lot. He's doing all the right things, but if you look at like his where you'd expect him to be, his home run totals are down. Having said that, though, I just think overall I believe he is the most valuable first baseman in the American League. I think again, there's great cases for both Naylor and especially Mountcastle, but I did go Vladdy on this. So yeah, it is going to come down to we're going to have to split this some way. So Bobby, I don't know if you have any input on
Bobby.
this or what the case may be, but
So I'll
um,
say this, and I'll be so again. The numbers these guys are gonna know a lot better than me, but you know what? I'm
You heard
looking
our
at.
cases.
So we were talking about. You guys were talking about defense and how like Josh Naylor's defensive stats may not be all there compared to some of the other guys on this list. Here's my thing. I probably would have taken that more into consideration if it wasn't first base. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like it's the like if this was a shortstop or a second baseman, I would probably say the defense matters a lot more compared to like a first baseman. Because at the end of the day, I mean, first baseman is going to see a ton of action, obviously, because most groundouts are going to go to him, whatever the hell, right? But I feel like with how good Josh Naylor has been, I mean, I know his average is low, but I mean, 20 home runs, 58 RBIs, and 823 OPS is kind of nuts with this early in the season. And it seems like he's only going to keep going on this really high trajectory of just power hitting that I feel like it's just not going to stop him. And plus, you know what? We should be a little different in how we do this ballot. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
why don't we put someone who's not a 1 and a 2? Let's throw Josh Naylor out there and continue the discussion and just see how he goes out throughout the rest of the season. I'm never going to disrespect Vladimir Guerrero Jr. really for anything. And you know what? I like Ryan Mountcastle a lot, by the way. I do really like Mountcastle. And part of me was like, man, do I do the homer pick of just picking Mountcastle up there? But I'm looking at Josh Taylor. He's just like blowing everybody away at the bat compared to everybody else. It seems
Yeah.
like. So I think I'm gonna put Josh Naylor in for this one and rock our vote in there.
And I think, I mean, kind of what Will said before, I believe, was the Guardians have been playing amazing baseball this year, way above standards that a lot of people thought. So I think they're going to get some love. Obviously, I think, we'll get to it in a second here, but Jose will probably be there. Maybe Stephen Kwan's in the mix, but they need players to represent, the fantastic season that they've had. And for that, I do think, again, Naylor is a great pick. I wonder if he'd participate in the home run derby, if that, is a thing, because I think he'd be great there as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm just confused about his average, honestly. Like, I wonder. I'll have to look into it. Like, I wonder why it is where it is compared to Mountcastle and Vladdy, but everything else just looks so good offensively for him. So
I'm
I like that.
sympathetic to guys like him. This is what we deal with Schwarber year over year. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different this year, but this is what we dealt with where like Schwarber has a low average. Like you can look at the last 2 years, especially even in the leadoff position. But the funny thing is that he would either still find a way to get on base or he'd be popping home runs. So the average is never going to tell the whole story. So I'm sympathetic to guys like Naylor and Schwarber in this case.
Yeah. And I like that too, because I think a lot of this list is going to be chalked in terms of what the the fan vote is already at as well.
It
So
is
I like that.
incredibly top heavy. It is incredibly top heavy.
And I think that's going to continue here. Second base, we'll start in the National League. Some good candidates here.
They made Altuve too tall.
I think, again, a couple options here, but Will, I'll get to you first. Who do you have at the second base position for the NL?
So this one, the short answer is I've gone with Ketel Marte, but I kind of want to compare. I know that Arise is the head, or it's between Marte and Arise, and Arise right now really isn't playing a lot of second base. He's playing more first base now with the Padres. But a very underappreciated player that in many ways I would even consider over Arise is Bryce Terang of the Brewers.
Yep.
Because here's the thing about about Arise. He's got power numbers. He's among top 10 in a lot of offensive categories, and he's having a career defensive season with 11 defensive runs saved to this point. Like, he, I think, does kind of run away with it for me because he is just an all-around dynamic player in every area he's trying to do. But this argument is more against Arise and why others should get love. Arise gets hits. Everyone knows that. He bats over 300. He has 100 plus hits this season. He leads the National League. He's kind of a one-dimensional player, though. Like, he doesn't do a lot defensively. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't get a lot of productive hits. And what I mean by that is he has 22 RBIs this season, and he is hitting over 380 with runners in scoring position. However, he doesn't have that much to show for it in comparison to other players. Like, for example, Marte's only batting 261, but he has 27 RBIs. So he's not doing as well average-wise with runners in scoring position, but he's producing when he is. So there's the debate of what makes it more valuable. And so I don't think Arise is a bad player, but I feel like if he was in a better situation, maybe other stats would pop out more that would make it come across as a bit more productive. And maybe he had being on the Marlins to start the season kind of hurt that a bit. But Bryce Terang on the Brewer squad that I will still stand by. I predicted they would be last place. They are not last place. They will not finish last place. But I thought they would be, and I still don't know how their offense does it. Terang is doing a lot better than I think people realize. Again, my stats are slightly off because I'm a day behind. But he's batting 289 with 5 home runs and 32 RBIs. He's right up there average-wise with many in the National Leagues. I only think the top 7 people in batting average are batting over 300. His OPS is second among the three I'm comparing, Marte, Terang, and Arise. His OPS plus is better than Arise. He hits 329 with runners in scoring position, 28 RBIs. He's been batting 280s, 290s every month this season. He has great defense. He has only 2 errors and 7 defensive runs saved. So because he doesn't have the flashy offensive numbers that like Marte has, he won't be the pick. He won't even finish in the top probably 5 in voting in the end. I do think he's someone that deserves a little bit of love and could make the team maybe as a bench option, though the Brewers have other very capable all-stars on the team. But if it wasn't for the fact that Marte's having such a great season, I might choose Terang as my number 1 pick.
Man, yeah, I think me and you're gonna have very similar views because I had the same kind of thing with that. Before I give my take on Terang, though, John, who do you have as your second baseman in the NL?
Honestly, I had to go with Ketel Marte. I think, honestly, it just speaks for itself. I genuinely think that he's the best second baseman all around in the National League. It's not even close.
I'll cut to the chase on this one. I also voted Marte as my number 1, but I do have Terang as number 2 in my little rankings. Arise is, I don't get it twisted. He is the best right now in the league, like bat to ball hitter, and maybe like has a conversation forever. Like the guy just hits, right? But as you said, it's not very impactful hits sometimes, and like he has a high average, but he's definitely lacking in defenses, which is why they kind of moved him to first as well. Also like positional needs and stuff. But Terang, as you said, I mean his stats have been really good. Almost batting 300. The stat that you didn't mention, with this guy that is also impressive is he is second in the league in stolen bases with 26, only behind
That's
Willie
right.
De La Cruz,
I have that.
who has 37 stolen bases, which is absolutely insane at this point in the year. But I mean, this guy has done it. And I don't want to. I know like there was some promise there. I remember him being talked about for a few years, but he kind of came out of nowhere in a way, and he's been having a great year along with the rest of the Brewers in that NL Central. So I think you look at a guy that deserves love in this, and probably won't get it because he plays for the Brewers and he's not a household name. Is Bryce Terang? I think like he's a huge sleeper pick for this All Star voting, and I hope in some ways he gets in. However, Marte, I've sung his praises for a while. I love his game. I think he's an amazing player. He's having another really, really good year. He's top 10 in OPS in the NL. He's got a 3.1 WAR. He's just been a great player this year, and has that power. When they need it. Obviously gets on base a lot, and he's him and Walker really this year have kind of been carrying the Diamondbacks because they're not where they were last year. They've have had some problems. Corbin Carroll's been not himself this year, so it's been like a guy like Marte who's really really pulled this team to even where it is now, and I do think he is the most valuable at his position in the NL at second base. Going over to the other side in the AL, I think this one is pretty clear cut to me. But yeah, Will, who do you have at second base in the AL?
I'll keep this quick, and then John can talk. But I have a little statement that I think, as a podcast, need to make.
Okay.
We at BLB
do you mean a
do not
little
condone.
statement?
Yes, we at BLB do not condone beating trash cans or wearing buzzers to cheat during baseball games. We also do indeed hold grudges and will never let go of you being on the cheating team, Jose Altuve. Therefore, my pick is for Marcus Semien.
Okay. Well, that's I wasn't expecting that. Okay.
Here's the one thing I'll say in favor of Marcus Semien, and then I'll leave it at that. He is leading the American League with batting and runners in scoring position. Going into today, it was 397. That's insane, especially for a Rangers team which has struggled mightily offensively. So,
John, what do you have to follow that up?
Now think carefully about this answer here because you might be implicit in agreeing with the trash cans.
Bidley Breakdown does not agree with the sentiments of or cheating of the Houston Astros in any way, shape, or form, and we agree with Will.
Here's your script.
In terms of however, unfortunately, the man was not suspended, so therefore he did it and got away with it. And now he is currently tearing the cover off the ball and batting .301. And Mr. Short and Stout, I have to go with for the National.
I love how Will. I don't even think wanted to make the show because he said little statement, so I thought he was picking out Altuve, but unbelievable. Yeah. I mean,
I am so shocked that he could even see over the trash can during that whole debacle. That's the even funnier
true.
bit. We got to really look into.
That's why he had the buzzer.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. New development. Somebody called Rosenthal. The reason he didn't use the trash can, use the buzzer, is because he literally couldn't see over the trash can. Holy,
Altuve is probably the one
story.
person Ken Rosenthal.
Wow.
Altuve is probably the one person Rosenthal can stand to and feel tall.
Yeah, probably.
I still love the picture of him next to Aaron Judge. It literally looks like somebody's little brother is on the field.
It looks like somebody photoshopped it, is what it looks like.
Okay, hold on.
Insane.
So you mentioned that. Do you know what's funny? I've seen both authentic and Photoshop pictures of Altuve. I actually can't tell anymore which ones are which. Like, I'm actually, every time I see a picture of him just, playing his position, standing next to somebody who's on second, I actually can't tell if the picture is photoshopped that because it just looks so ridiculous. I'm not even listen, credit to my short kings, right? But still, man, it just looks ridiculous in the pictures.
Credit to you, Tyler, apparently.
Thank you. I knew that was coming. John loves to remind me how short I am. I mean, I'm 6 foot, but
not the shortest in the group anymore.
Right.
6'5" when he's standing on business.
I agree with John's sentiment to a T. Obviously some stuff in the past, but he's been an absolutely amazing player. I mean, you look at the model of consistency, and he's one of those guys. I mean, he just produces every year. The Astros have sneakily gotten back into the race, and a lot of it is because of his bat and what he's been able to do in that offense. And for me, it is Jose Altuve pretty clearly.
Can I not convince you in other ways?
I mean, you can try, but if it has anything to do with him beating a trash can,
not anymore. I got that out of my system.
Okay.
All right.
So try to sway me.
Semien compared to Altuve has more runs scored, more extra, or actually they're the same extra base hits, just one less home run, more RBIs by 10, more walks, less strikeouts, better on runners in scoring position average, and is better defensively by a country mile. And now everyone's favorite stat, WAR. Semien is better by nearly a point.
As good as that all sounds, Altuve is literally carrying the corpse of the Astros, which I never thought I'd say, to potentially a playoff spot. Where I mean, Semien again,
Alvarez and Tucker mean nothing. Got it.
Well, no, I'm saying, but it's that trio because, Bregman's been dog shit this year.
No, let's be honest. It's Alvarez and Tucker, and
they got rid of
Abreu. Too short to carry anything.
Well, I mean, Yordan Alvarez is a big fella now, so I don't know if anybody can carry
Tucker.
him. I mean,
it'd be like a bunch of big brothers carrying stuff to little brothers, like, I can't reach it.
No, I still think Altuve though, and I think that'll be our pick. What are you drawing? Is that a trash can?
The trash elf. The trash elf.
Trash elf.
Yep, the trash elf.
It didn't take long. We're already off the rails. Let's move over to National League third baseman. I think this one is another clear-cut one. Will, I'll let you have the floor again because I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Can I go first?
Don't
Alec
Thunder.
Bohm.
I was gonna
Steelers
say
Thunder
boom,
now.
boom, boom,
Yes.
boom. The dude's
Yeah,
tearing the cover off the ball.
this
I'm
is
like,
another.
I wouldn't be surprised if, like, there usually is like a little bit of a push last second when it comes to All-Star voting for whatever reason. People think about it last minute, blah blah blah. And I know there's the 5 ballot limit per day. Alec Boehm is so much better than everyone. It's not even close.
No,
And
I
his
know.
ballots are like 1.5 million more than the next person. And he's like 50 to 100,000 off of Harper. Like, what are the odds Alec Boehm has a sudden surge in the last, like, since the update, yesterday or 2 days ago, and
Yeah.
overtakes Harper for the most ballots by a National League player?
I
Very
think it's
possible.
unlikely just because Harper has, I guess, more of the name value. But as you said, I mean, there's not anybody even touching Bohm in this category. Like the second place voting for fans is Manny Machado, and he's batting 260, 7 home runs, 691 OPS. Like he's just
Not
not even
deserved
close
at
to what Bohm's
all.
done.
What are the odds we get a
John's favorite
unanimous, like,
player.
everyone votes for Boehm in round 2 when it's him and Machado? Just
I
everyone,
mean,
not a single Padres fan even tries.
it should be,
Can
man. I
I
mean,
can I throw
it's
in
Bohm.
for number 2? Can I throw Ryan McMahon in
You
the
love
list,
that man.
or Joey
You have a
Ortiz?
crush. You have a crush on him, but yes, you can. You love yourself some
Uh,
Ryan McMahon.
I'm surprised you didn't
I just
pick the
think.
former Oriole prospect.
What are you talking about? Joey Ortiz? I said or Joey Ortiz.
Yeah, he did.
No, no,
He
no. We
did.
were too busy
Yeah.
hearing you smooch over McMahon.
Oh my god. Well, I can't help when I get talked over. Anyway, in terms of McMahon, I mean,
Hot.
having 14 home runs.
Now you
Okay.
know how
In
I feel
terms
every time I
of
do an outro.
14 home runs and an OPS of 838, I mean, it's pretty. To me, that is better than what Manny Machado is producing. But whatever.
I think a trash can is better than Machado right now.
No, we voted for him last time. We are on to third base, not second.
I think. I mean, Colorado is obviously, somebody's got to go from there, and I guess McMahon could be one. But there's a player we'll talk about in a sec that could potentially get in for Colorado. But yeah, it's Alec Boehm. Let's not overcomplicate it. The man is having a great season, and this is kind of what you expected from him, or you wanted from him, I should say. If the Phillies were going to take the next step, it was going to be guys like Boehm and Stott that were taking that next step, as they were once the prospects of this team and these bright futures at second and third base. Well, they're there now, and obviously doing great things as the Phillies have been playing really well. Let's move over to the American League. This is an interesting one. I think
So
there are
Tyler's
some
going to ignore
options
me
here.
waving my hand like this now?
I don't have you on the screen, so no, I'm not. What do you want
Why
to say?
aren't you looking at everyone else to see when they want to talk? Maybe that's what stops the
I-
interrupting. God damn it.
Unlike Bobby, I don't
God.
have 5 monitors, but I do have 2, and you're on the second monitor.
And I have 1. What's your problem? I see you perfectly.
Exactly. You're contradicting yourself. What do you need to say?
I was just going to say something quick that the reason why the Brewers are doing as well as they are is because of players like Terang that we just talked about and Joey Ortiz, because they are going above and beyond expectations coming in. They are coming into the clutch. They are very consistent. And the Brewers hopefully can get some love with the lesser known players on the All-Star roster.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, we talked about how, we thought they were going to struggle, and it is, as you said, because of these guys. And obviously, other players as well, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But, all right, nobody's waving their arms. I'm good to move on. Okay, third base in
Contradicting
the
myself,
American
my
League.
ass.
Third base in the American League is kind of an interesting one. I think this is one of those positions that could potentially be up for debate. But John, I'll start with you on this one. Who do you have at third base in the American League? And I see there's an Oriole there. I'm wondering if that's where you're going with this one.
Yeah, he did
I'm
have.
so
He
glad
does
we have
have
like
my
a
vote.
resident Homer.
Yeah, exactly.
He,
And I'm the
It just
opposite.
makes
does
this
I'm
more
have,
the
interesting.
he does. All right, he does have my vote. Simply because of the clutchness that Westberg does have. But Jose Ramirez is clear in a way. I think the favorite here in
Yeah.
terms of third base in the American League. I think it's just top higher class in terms of ability compared to everybody else. But I mean, Jordan Westberg, who plays both second and third, honestly, I think could be an all-star at either. But here we are.
I I kind of threw that to you and was kind of joking about you picking Westberg, and then you picked Westberg. Not that he's not deserving, but
It
I think there's a better
100% is
option.
deserving for his
I
ability with
know.
his glove and
I'm
everything.
just saying. I wasn't expecting it, but I should have expected it. Will, who do you have at
Well,
third
I
base
mean,
in the AL?
okay, wait
I don't
until
know
we
if I
get
want to
to the
speak
next
next.
position. Wait till we get to the next
Oh,
position.
yeah. I know. Relax. We'll get there. You'll have your flowers on that
I'm
one
going to campaign harder than the president for for a certain individual.
for a certain individual. All right, Will, who do you have at third base in the AL?
I kind of want you to go next because I want to see if we're on the same wavelength or not.
Well, okay. I'll tell you this.
Damn, you're going to let him run the show like that?
I think there's four. Okay, so there's three actual options, but I think there's four potential options that I would like to see.
Two
Uh,
options?
Jordan Westberg would be fourth on that list. I just want to put that out there now. I do have Jose Ramirez getting in as the guy at third base. Again, you talk about how good the Guardians have been this year, and he has been amazing. I think I want to say too, it was funny because we were talking about them earlier in the year when they had the really hot start, and we were like, man, they're really good. And Jose Ramirez isn't even playing that well. Like, imagine what they can be when he's playing well. And you're kind of seeing that right now. Like, obviously, the team as a whole is playing good, but, Jose Ramirez, 21 home runs, a 279 average, 72 RBIs already, like, just having a crazy year. Now, you see, you can't see it on screen here, but at the top of the list, there's a man, Royce Lewis, and I think just because he was
Dude hasn't
injured,
had 100 at bats.
listen to me. Just because he hasn't played enough, no, I'm serious. Because I'm gonna tie
I
this into
know,
another.
I know what he's done. I know what he's done. I just find
I'm
it
gonna
funny.
tie this into another conversation. Royce Lewis has been so good, even though he was hurt for so long, that like you almost have to give him consideration just because he's been unbelievable in the games that he's played. And this kind of brings to the conversation that you know there was a whole thing about should Paul Skeens get into the All-Star game because he only got called up in May. He's only had a few starts, but he's been so unbelievable. I feel like Royce Lewis falls into that category too of like this guy definitely doesn't have enough plate appearances and stuff. I understand that, but like he's legitimately been one of the best players in baseball when he's been on the field, and I don't think that's a stretch to say. He's literally been so good. And you're saying, I mean, 10 home runs, and he's only had a handful of bats. He's got a 1.2 OPS. Like, it's been absolutely insane. So I don't think you can really pick him because of the injury and how long he was out. But I think shout out to Royce Lewis. He's an amazing player. But I actually have Rafi Devers over Westberg. I think like Devers is quietly having a really amazing year as well. And what he's doing over there in Boston. The OPS up over 900, 283 batting average, and again 16 home runs for him as well. Uh, long answer short though, I still is Jose for me at third base, but I guess we weren't on the same wavelength, Will, since you just yelled at me for Royce Lewis. But it's fine.
I didn't think he was expecting you to pick a guy who has less than 100 at bats.
I did not pick him. Did you listen to me? I
didn't
gave
pick
him
him.
flowers because the guy is again one of the best players in baseball, and now that he's on the field, he's going to continue, hopefully, for his sake, to be that. But go on, Will.
Jose Ramirez is probably the best offensive option without a doubt. Of the third baseman, he must have had an insane home run day or day in general because he's got 2 home runs from more home runs than what I have on my list and 5 more RBI. So he must be loving that they're playing the Orioles right now. I bet John's having a field day watching Jose Ramirez kick his ass, but he didn't get my pick.
Oh,
This
okay.
isn't fun.
Because I'm all about spreading the love to the underdog. I gave it to someone not even mentioned yet.
I know who you're giving it to. I do.
Probably. I gave it to Josh Smith of the Rangers.
Not who I thought.
All right. Now here's why.
You know, I didn't think this would happen at third base. I really didn't think this would happen at third base.
Who'd you pick, Tyler? Or who'd
No,
you think
I
I
was-
picked?
I was looking at Luis Ren. I forget actually how to say his name. Rengifo. Rengifo. That's what it is.
Right.
But
No, so
Yeah.
Josh
Expert
Smith
baseball
is
podcast, by the way,
basically-
guys.
He's basically been the replacement for Josh Jung. He's
Like
played
and
some
subscribe.
shortstop, but the majority of his playing time has been at third base. He doesn't have the power numbers that Devers, Ramirez, and Westberg are having, but he's having an excellent season. He's fourth, I believe, in the American League in batting average. He's third in on base percentage, tied for eighth in doubles, ninth in OPS. He is nearly at 400. His OPS plus, as of yesterday again, and things have changed in a day because his OPS a day before used to be higher than Ramirez, was the highest, at least between Ramirez and Devers. So he's at least in the conversation overall offensively to what they are doing. Sitting 357 with runners in scoring position. He's tearing it up this month, 375, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. He's got the best WAR at 3.4, and defensively he's the best with the least amount of errors compared to Ramirez and Devers, 2 compared to 5, and has 2 defensive runs saved. He, I think, is an unsung hero to keep the Rangers at all in any conversation of the playoffs. And is probably going to be overlooked because they have Semyon Seager and some other wonderful people.
he is a dark horse. I to be honest, I really didn't even take him into consideration. But definitely a dark horse there. And bro, I hate to bring up Royce Lewis again, but it is hilarious to look at his slugging percentage.
I looked at him for a
28.
split second.
Bro,
he has 10 home runs and like 70 at bats.
He has
he should be in the
75
home run
at-bats.
derby.
He has 75 at bats and 10 home runs. That's insane. Like it's quite literally ridiculous. What he's doing. I mean, he has 23 hits, 13 of them have been extra base hits. Regardless, I think there are options. I think what's likely is probably Jose. And I believe he is leading right now. He is the fan vote right now. And so this is another situation where you have 3 different answers. So Bobby might have to be the tiebreaker here. We have Jose Ramirez, Jordan Westberg, and Josh Smith up for grabs. So would you like to intervene in this one? There's a clear answer,
Ramirez.
by the way. Thank
Ramirez.
There is.
you. Move on.
Yeah.
It is him.
It's 72 RBIs is
It's-
freaking absurd.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on
That's
to
Jose.
the NL shortstop. This one is interesting because injuries. Man, Mookie Betts would be the clear and away favorite for this one. But with the broken hand, obviously, he's out for till like August, isn't he? Or am I making that
It
up?
was 6 weeks, I think.
Oh, okay. So
maybe
maybe
late
not.
July.
So
Yeah, I don't know. But outside of Mookie Betts, you have Trey Turner, obviously, but he's been out with injury too. Like the shortstop position in the NL is just riddled with injuries. I'll ask you first. I mean, what are you kind of thinking for this position? Because I think it's just weird now with like the amount of time the top 2 guys have missed.
Well, all I'm going to say is I'm very thankful that Turner's going to make the All-Star team, and this is how it's going to happen. He's going to finish in the top 2 in voting, which means he's going to round 2, where it's going to be the injured guy or the guy who came back from an injury. And if either the guy who's injured wins, and then he can't make it, so they give it to the runner-up, or the votes go to Turner because Betts is hurt. Either way, Turner's going to make it, it looks like. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not one to vote for injured players, and I wouldn't vote for Turner because he missed a whole month of the season. So it is very scattered between who the starters are. I think you and I might have the same pick on this one, Tyler, because you kind of hinted at the Rockies having another guy earlier. I picked
Yep.
Ezekiel Tovar as the
Yep.
starter. Ellie De La Cruz is probably the best named person on the list, and that's mainly because of his speed. I always find De La Cruz a little overrated because he seems to have a really hot stretch and then really suck afterwards, and he's kind of doing that again because he did amazing in April and has been bad since then. Striking, and he also leads the National League in strikeouts. The closest person I had to Tovar was probably CJ Abrams of the Nationals because Abrams is one of only 5 people going into the day today with a slugging percentage over 500. It was 502,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of nuts to say, but worth noting. And defensively, he isn't having great numbers, but if you're at all familiar with how bad he was last year, he's made huge strides. But Tovar is doing. Oh, by the way, about De La Cruz, he has 15 errors. Now about
I
Tovar,
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
Oof.
I don't know, dude. Ellie's like so hard to kind of like. He is an electric player. I'll give him that. But like, he kind of gets
when he's hot,
overhyped.
yeah.
He kind of gets overhyped, and then he gets over criticized, and it's like very, very weird, man. Like, I and maybe it's because like the Pirates have O'Neal Cruz, and they're kind of being compared for lots of reasons. One being they're both 6'7" shortstops. With the same last name. But it's weird with them. Sorry, just had to interject, but yeah.
No, you're fine. But then just to wrap it up quickly, Tovar, he's done great defensively. He's probably I would say he's the best right now on the short list I have between Abrams, Adames, De La Cruz, and Tovar. Adames is the closest because he has great range, so his defensive run saved is high, but Adames has 14 errors as well, where Tovar has 4 and 6 defensive
Yeah.
run saves, so I feel like he gets the edge there. But Tovar's bat has an OPS close to 800, if not over. I don't know what the latest update is. He hits pretty good average wise. It's in the 280s, has in the teens in home runs, over 20 doubles. I believe he's only behind Alec Boehm in the National League in doubles. He's 4th in hits. He's the best all around player right now, remaining outside of Mookie Betts for National League shortstop. So I'd give it to him.
Yeah. I'm liking the Ezekiel Tovar love because again, the Rockies don't get a lot of that. John, who do you have for the NL shortstop?
This is one. It's probably going to go to the pop contest in terms of who will actually go for 2, because I do think that Turner will end up going for the Phillies, just simply because right now he's up against a guy with a broken hand. So
Yeah.
in terms of everything, I would not be surprised if, you know, if Ellie Cruz ended up going, but somebody that I kind of think could be could be a representative from his team and could be good in terms of being a good representative is CJ Abrams at this
Yeah.
position. I think just what his OPS is, being thank you Bobby for scrolling up there, being 827, having 12 home runs and batting 275. I mean, honestly, with shortstop in the National League being up for grabs, in my opinion, this is one that will probably go to Ellie, but I mean, honestly, I change my vote every single time I cast a ballot. So uh, it could go to Abrams for me. It could go to De La Cruz. I don't think I've voted for Mookie. No, I voted for Mookie once, and that was right before he got hurt. So maybe I shouldn't have cast that ballot. Um, and Trey Turner, with him missing a month of the season, I think that also was. I don't think should go, but that's my
I,
opinion. Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird on like the kind of the time frame of the injury, right? Because like Mookie, just recently got hurt, so he's still like up there in terms of at bats he's had. So like if you kind of compare the numbers, obviously you would favor Mookie. And I think don't get it twisted either. Like if Mookie is not hurt, he's the pick. I think if Trey Turner isn't out for as long as he is, he's definitely a pick. And I think Turner will be the guy that eventually gets in. But I also gave love to Ezekiel Tovar in this one because of those injuries, and he was neck and neck with CJ Abrams, who I've also been loving this year. I think he came over in the Soto trade is how they got him. I want to say because he was a promising young shortstop for the Padres and their
Yeah.
organization, and he came over. So it's nice to see for the Nationals that they do have a guy panning out after giving up a guy like Soto.
Well, I feel like
But
this is the
again,
Nationals thing. They get these great talents,
and
such as
ship him out.
Abrams, Soto, Harper. Can't keep
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Well, now they're
So
keeping them again, building
yeah.
up a
And I
new
mean,
team,
I was gonna say, I mean, it's
right,
crazy to think about, but not that long ago they did win a World Series. So,
and they're approaching 500 this year.
and
hey,
then they gave it to Steven
you
Strasburg.
guys thought I was crazy for
Yeah,
having them at a pretty decent record, and hey, they're showing up. But
their
I
pitching's
think
doing a lot better.
overall, again, I think it will be Trey, but I did pick Ezekiel Tovar at short, so I think we
So
had
that
two
was
votes
two
for
votes for
Tovar.
Tovar. Yep.
Yep. So we'll pick him, and again, change it up a little bit. Let's not go with complete
John
chalk
can
the whole
just run
time.
away with the American League shortstop for all I care.
Yeah, this is.
I know what he's
Let's
going to
keep
say,
this.
and I'm going to say he's
Let's
right.
let's keep this short,
He's right
John.
about the next two categories. How about that? He can just boast about his two players at the next two positions.
Please pick Schumann. Please pick Schumann. Please pick Schumann.
John, why did you pick Gunnar Henderson?
Why did I pick Gunnar Henderson? Because this man stands in as the shortstop for the Baltimore Orioles. He is batting .280, has 25, count 'em, 25 home runs, 55 RPIs, and a 984 OPS, as well as the fact that he is the clear frontrunner and clear most valuable player for the American League. Ladies and gentlemen, Gunnar Henderson.
That was way too played out. Thank you. I mean,
How
yes,
did you manage to sound like Samantha Irvin and Paul Heyman at the same time? That was honestly kind of aggressive.
If I get the same thing from Adley, we're ending this. Yes, it's Gunnar Henderson, obviously. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is having a great year, and he should get in as well. But Gunnar Henderson, 25 home runs, like holy!
Can't believe you're knocking my boy Schumann like that. It's crazy.
That is true. I mean, to be honest, I hadn't even heard about him. I think before this, you just mentioned him. So, whatever. But Will, anything to add on Gunnar Henderson being the pick?
A month ago, I might have picked Bobby Witt, but after another month of Gunnar Henderson doing Gunnar Henderson things, he's the runner-up even for MVP right now, the Judge. So
Yeah,
he's the clear cut.
He's a runner-up to Judge.
No, Judge definitely has it. Is the favorite right now for sure. Which again was kind of crazy with him because he also had
Judge
like a
blew up in
slow
May, and
start.
that's kind of that.
Dude, that's the thing. It's like he had a slow start too, but now like he's up to how many home runs? Like 28.
28.
Like it's crazy, man. But both phenomenal players. But yeah, Henderson's obviously this pick there. We move over to the catcher position. We'll do the NL first since we've been doing the NL first. Well, I'll go to you here. I think there's a couple options here, but one main one. So who do you have?
I mean, I'd love to pick JT, but he's hurt and honestly isn't the best catcher right now in the National League. He's having an average season. It's a lot closer than I
Best
thought
catcher
between
from
Will
your
Smith
couch.
and William Contreras.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I
I
mean that.
mean,
Sorry, I was gonna say
I feel
like
like Will Smith isn't getting the love because he's the
no,
Dodgers and that he was
yeah,
hurt
that
for like a week or two or whatever.
like
But I mean,
I
Contreras is among the league leaders in hits, average. But other than that, they're even on like almost everything from OPS to runners in scoring position to WAR to their defensive metrics. I am literally going to give William Contreras the edge purely because he has a significantly better batting average against or with runners in scoring position by like nearly 60 points, though they're both over
yeah
300. And that's really it. I mean, it's a toss up.
I yeah, I sorry, I was like kind of cutting in on you there because I had thought the
Uh
same thing.
huh.
Like I love JT, right? Like he's a great catcher, um, one of the best. But the fact that he's second in voting over Will Smith is kind of weird to me because Will Smith's having
Philly
another great year.
faithful.
But I mean, also JT's hurt now, so I mean, whatever.
Philly
The case may
faithful.
be. John, who do
Vote
you
for
have at
Johan
catcher in the NL?
Rojas.
Okay,
I gotta go with
relax, Chief.
Contreras.
Contreras, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah, I gotta go with Contreras. In terms of just the season he's having of consistency for the Brewers, I think really sets him apart there personally. And but plus, I think you're right with it being the Dodgers. I think there is that hate there, but you know, I just think Contreras is having a better
A
year.
lot of love for the Brewers. Gotta say, a
the
lot of love for
only
that team. They're doing a
the
lot of
only
great things offensively.
question I'll ask on this is recency bias going to catch up to Contreras because he had a crazy March and April, batted 345, had a crazy May, batted
Mm-hmm.
301. In June, he's batting 207, and he's really cooled off.
Yeah.
I think overall he's still the better catcher stats wise, but is recency bias going to get him? Is my question. Like, are fans going to start voting Will Smith
No,
because
because Will Smith is having the same kind of downfall. Will Smith
yeah,
batted 330 something in April. His average dropped to in the 210s in May. It's under 200, I believe, in this month. And he's the only real
oh,
competition
actually,
Contreras has.
yeah, I apologize because I didn't even realize. Yeah, he Will Smith's batting 186 this month. Okay, never mind. Point out the window. I was just looking at Contreras earlier and I was like, man, like this guy was batting like 300 earlier in the year. It's kind of funny to
If
see him
Will
under
Smith
now.
wasn't batting under 200, I would say maybe with that argument, especially given just that it's a Dodger fan base behind him voting wise. But no,
Yeah.
I don't think in this case that's an issue.
Yeah, William Contreras, I think, is the pick, but I do think Will Smith should be second and not JT, as we kind of pointed out. And moving over to the AL, once again, should be pretty clear cut. It is Adley Rutschman. I don't think anybody has any objections. I know John definitely doesn't. But John,
But
why
let John
is
at least say his piece.
I swear to God, if you cut another wrestling promo, though, you're getting cut off. Bobby, you need to mute him if he cuts another promo, okay? Why is
I
Adley
am
going
at
to
the
be an
ready.
all-star catcher?
He's literally just the product of consistency, and it is literally just it.
I do have
I
one
don't
thing
think
I can add
you
though.
can't say
No, you're 100% right.
enough good
There's
things
no
there.
one better. But the
Yeah,
only
he's
thing
batting
is
300.
a
He's
big
batting 300. He's clearly the best catcher
a,
in the American League.
a big thing though to consider with the voting is that the reason why Rushman has run away with it is Salvador Perez has had a horrendous June.
Yeah.
A
I think
horrendous
that's
June.
the reason.
He's
Well, I
batting
mean,
in the 150s. Before then, his average was well over 300 with 8 home runs and pushing
Yeah,
40
but I don't
RBIs.
think
After
that's the
May,
reason he's run away with it.
no, that's
no, but
100% the reason. They were neck and neck for a while, and then Salvador Perez just fell off the face of the planet.
I mean,
I feel like
you
it
can
kind of
With
says
almost
something
Russians
for
now.
Perez, though. The fact that he's batting somewhere in the 150s in 1 month and he's still batting a 279. So he was tearing the cover off of it up until
Right,
that
he
point.
was on fire. It was
yeah, he
like
was
this
looking like
old
old
soul is
Salvi.
like found baseball magic.
Yeah.
Father Time is undefeated, my friends.
I mean, the other person you can kind of put in that conversation who also fell off was Ryan Jeffers, who, man, I still have the sheet, but we were doing our pre-show for the AL Central, and I didn't get to it. But I have on there like, look out for Ryan Jeffers, and damn, I wish I said it because he had such a great start to the year. But now he's also batting 156 in June, so like,
And I like
obviously,
Logan O'Hoppe, but that's a
yeah,
little bit of Philly bias. He's
yeah.
probably the Angels representative, if we're being honest. He'll be like the third string catcher on the team.
Or
Probably. I mean, they don't
Renhefo.
really have a great pitching rotation, so yeah.
I
Right,
think
they don't
I
have
could
any
see it
Renhefo
going
real.
to
Well,
Renhefo.
maybe, yeah, that's what was going to be the other option potentially, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
They're just going to
And
send Trout. No reason other than his name.
Keep the streak
John,
alive!
it's funny you say that because I wouldn't put it past them. All right, so let's move on to the outfield position as we just have outfield and the DH spot left. Outfield for the NL, I think to me, 1 and 2 are pretty solidified. I think there might be a case for 3 to move some things around. But we will see. Will, who do you have in the outfield for the NL?
Well, the two clear cuts, I think, are because I think the outfield is actually fairly weak in the NL in general. But the two clear cuts are Jerkson Profar and Christian Yelich. We agree on that or no?
Yes, those are the two clear
Yeah.
cut. Yes.
Okay. The three I have after that are neck and neck, and I know one of them, which is the one I picked just because, like I said, I like to vote for the person that I don't think is going to get enough love, was Teoscar Hernandez, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Elliot Ramos. And I picked Elliot Ramos for similar-esque reasons why you picked uh um
Royce Lewis.
what's his name? Royce Lewis.
Yeah.
Because Ramos came up in May, and since he's come up, he's batting is he batting 290 yet, or is he batting close to 290? He's batting over 300. Lovely.
300.
10
yeah.
home runs, 30
Yeah, he'll do you one better.
RBIs, over 900 OPS. Like I said, I did all these last night. It took me like 4 hours to put everything together. Otherwise, if I had all these tabs up, my computer would explode.
In case you thought that like there wasn't any work being done behind the scenes, by the way.
Yeah, some of us are prepared.
Speaking out of my ass.
Hey.
But anyway, he's
Others
having
of
a
us.
tremendous month of June. And also he is arguably the best defensive outfielder on the list right now, and maybe even both leagues, because he's got no errors and 8 defensive runs saved in 40 plus games. Like, he is just running away with like his production right now. It's just a shame he had a month less, because that probably is what's going to keep him from potentially being a starter. Between Hernandez and Tatis, I'd probably give the slight edge to Teoscar Hernandez, but my vote was for Elliot Ramos.
Well, I'm going to be a hypocrite because I voted for Royce Lewis, and I did see Elliot Ramos, but I kind of disregarded him because of not having the at-bats. But it's because I'm so in love with Royce Lewis. So I am a hypocrite here.
Marry him.
I will. John, who do you have at that third outfield spot? Or who did you have in consideration as well?
I guess this is a thing where it's like my pick is honestly every single time I vote, because the National League is a lot weaker in my opinion, but it's also because the American League has Judge and Soto, so there's that to consider. Honestly, I don't think you could go wrong with any that Will said. I do think for the popularity of it, I think that Tatis will end up going, but who knows?
I mean, again, not having Elliot Ramos in the 3, I had the 3 that I had for that third spot was Tatis, Teoscar, and Brian Reynolds. Man, I did end up going with Tatis for the third spot. I had Reynolds in the 4th spot. Reynolds is on a 22 game hitting streak right now. He's been obviously lights out for the Pirates. And again, I think if you're looking for a guy who's going to end up as a representative for the Pirates, he's probably going to be the guy. Unless maybe, I mean, maybe they get somebody from the starting pitching to go, but um, Tatis, I think, is just a little bit better, but I think you're kind of splitting hairs between like Teoscar, Tatis, and Reynolds, and I mean, honestly, even Ramos as well, if you want to throw him in there. Um, Kind of crazy to see on this list as well, Seiya Suzuki, like obviously not getting a vote, but he started the year on fire and really has cooled off. And I was just looking at him, and it's like kind of weird to see him where he's at, but yeah, I had Tatis in that last spot. So I think we go what Profar, Yelich, and do we have two for Tatis?
You both
You
said
had
Tatis,
Yeah.
so
yeah. All right, so we'll throw
Yeah.
Tatis in as that last spot. Shout out Jerickson Profar, by the way. What a year he's having after a lot of years of, I don't want to say disappointment, but not living up to expectations. He's having a hell of a year and really carrying that team as well. Moving over to the AL, I think it's another one of those things. I think we probably
1
all
and 2 are
have,
solidified.
yeah, Soto and Judge are there.
Yep.
And I think 3, you can have a conversation. I think it's probably between Kyle Tucker and Stephen Kwan. Um,
John, do you want to
maybe
say Santander or no?
I was gonna say
I
maybe
do. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think Stephen Kwan should be 3. However, I think that I think Tony Taters needs to be an alternate at the very least. The man in the month of June has hit 11 home runs. To that point, he had 9 going into the month of June. He has blasted his 21st now. So just for his bat alone, I think he belongs going there. And then you have Colton Cowser, who is probably getting a popularity vote, but I'm not going to complain to see him up there either. But Tony Taters definitely, in my opinion, needs to be there as well. But I think the clear number 3 is Quan, just for how he's batting. I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but it would be interesting to see if he could bat 400.
that would be crazy. Well, I'll go to you first. Actually, who do you have in that third spot?
I gave it to Quan because of how ridiculous his offensive numbers have been, even though he was out for a little bit. I think Kyle Tucker has a strong case, but he's been hurt for the last couple weeks or like a week or so because of a contusion on his shin. Because
Yeah.
he was up in the offensive numbers with Judge or he was in the offensive numbers period before Judge just took off. It's because he hasn't been playing recently while other players have been hot. It's just he's kind of, I feel like, fallen off the wayside, and now all these other players are taking the spotlight. I think Tucker will still make the team, and I think Santander is a borderline player, not because I don't think he's deserving, because he's had a short but like month in June and definitely boosted his power numbers. I think the main thing is like you said, if Cowser gets in as a fan vote, that's a huge blow, I think, for Santander because of just spots and the fact that the Orioles are going to have so many players on the All-Star team that they have to fill up roster spots for every team and maybe then a little bit more. So the Orioles may be forced to leave 1 or 2 guys off that could be
Yeah.
deserving just so that other teams can get their players on. And I
So
think that's just a matter of how the All-Star team is built.
So it's interesting that you say that, but also you got to factor that the American League needs 6 for the All-Star for outfield. So I feel like as long as he's in the top 6, he gets in no matter what, regardless
Fan
of
voting
fans.
means nothing.
But
That's no real indication about what a team needs to build. If anything, if Mountcastle were to lose the first base vote, I don't think Mountcastle would make the team, but I think Santander would in that case. So, and again, it's because of just how they build an all-star roster. Now, granted, there's players that are going to be hurt. There's players that won't want to go, and substitutions will take place. So it's possible he may not make the initial roster or something or come in later. But I think because there's at least like 5 good options in the American League, that at least that I put down. I had 6 people down. One of them was Santander. The 5 that I have will probably make it, and then maybe an extra might sink in or go in place of Santander if a team needs a representative, or at least needs like another representative or something.
So I picked Mike Trout. No, I'm kidding. I had
Yeah.
Stephen Kwan. I had Stephen Kwan as a third, and so that'll be the pick. So I had Judge, Soto, Kwan, Tucker, Santander, and then 6. Give a little bit of love to Jaron Duran as well. He's had a pretty good
Not
year
Tyler
too. So.
O'Neill of the same team.
I mean, either or, they've been really good.
Yeah.
So
Well, they could be 5 and 6 and be a Red Sox representative. Except Red Sox
Yeah.
have good pitching. So
Yeah, but Stephen Kwan, as you said, I mean, missed some time. I think he only had like a handful of bats in the month of May. But dude, he's batting 386. Like, and for a guy
Yeah.
that doesn't hit for power, supposedly, like 7 home runs isn't that bad as well. And the bats he's had too. So that is the outfield, and then this should be pretty quick as well. I believe the DH spots for the NL and AL in the National League. I think you're really looking at 2 guys here. But I mean, Shohei is right there, and he's got to make the All-Star game. Come on now. You know, any objections?
Sure,
I mean,
Baba.
Marcell Ozuna's right there too. Anybody have Marcell Ozuna, or just
I would if you asked
Shohei,
me
though?
like 2 weeks ago. You asked me like 2 weeks
Right.
ago, I probably would have said him merely for the fact that at that time when the balloting started, Ozuna's stats were overall better. Otani's just been that hot since then, and he is
Yeah.
pushing a triple crown right now if the season were to end. So he
I,
has to be the starter.
I mean, yeah, Shohei has to make the All-Star game. there's no way around it.
He'll make
John,
it. He needs to
I mean,
start.
John, I assume you have Otani as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
what is an All-Star game without Otani? Seriously.
yeah. And
A
again,
gambling ring.
We say that and we're not putting Trout in. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
I can't help the fact that Trout hasn't played since April. Okay.
But it's Mike Trout. I mean, he's automatically in.
It's gonna be
AL
weird.
side of things, I think it's also somewhat clear cut. Maybe not as much as the NL with those 2 guys, but Yordan Alvarez is a monster, crazy player, one of the best. I mean, just crazy to watch. I have him as my pick. Any objections
I will
or
object.
shout outs? You'll object. Okay, who do you have?
I will object. And I can understand going against it because of recent trends. But David Fry, aside from the fact that he's played far less games, is overall offensively the better player by Alvarez, and it's not even close.
Yeah,
Honestly, I could go with that.
I looked at David.
He's got
Fry,
a better slugging, or at least again, he had a better slugging percentage, better on base percentage, better OPS, better average, better. Alvarez is batting under 200 with runners in scoring position, while Fry's batting over 350. So that's a big thing. The really negative thing I can say about Fry is he's had 1 insanely good month and 2 mediocre to poor months. So he is really going off of not playing every day and having 1 huge month in May that probably boosted his stats. But I mean, Alvarez is probably going to get it. He's still very dangerous to face, potent in that Astros lineup, which is still effective even if the pitching's not. But David Fry, his numbers, 20 games less or not, whatever, they're just really, really good looking.
I just think he also falls victim a little bit to the fact that, again, he has less at bats. And again, I know I'm being hypocritical because of what I said about Royce Lewis.
Since you didn't pick Royce Lewis, I'll let you live.
No, but I did look at Fry too, because I mean he's been insane. I just think, like, almost quantity wise, Alvarez gets in over him, but I think he should be second. How do you guys feel about Stanton? Any love there? Like, even not as like the guy, but like as like a top 3.
Overrated.
If you're gonna give love to Santander or Josh Naylor, you gotta give some sense of love to Stanton. The main way
Nope.
Stanton is less is his on base percentage is crap. John won't because it's a Yankee, so it's pointless in talking to him about
I
it.
also think he's overrated. I really do.
His numbers are comparable to
I
everyone
swear,
that
it has
everyone's
nothing
is
to do
slightly
with me
better.
liking the Orioles.
His
And the
numbers
Dark
are
Dance.
right up there. They're just a tad under, but they are like if you were to make a list of like the like Schwarber type numbers for American League players, it could very well be Santander, Naylor, Stanton as your top 3. So he probably wouldn't get picked because you have other players like him that are doing slightly better, but he is absolutely in that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have him at 3. I'd have Jordan, Fry, and then Stanton.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, New York getting a lot of love with their power bouts already, so it'll be interesting to see. But just wanted to throw his name in the ring because he's had a decent year as well. But with that, that is our official All-Star ballot for the first round. We will have to see how things play out in the next couple of weeks. We are closing in, but definitely some time for players to turn it on or make their case to get into the game or maybe take themselves out of the game.